Hi, Steve.
Hi, Jim.
I've got a would you rather this morning. Would you rather
Oh,
ask the guitar man to sing you a song, or would you rather ask the piano man to sing you a song?
well, I don't know, Jim. Do they actually write their own stuff?
Hmm. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Two Guys Talking About Records, a vinyl community podcast where each week we two guys get together. And Steve, what do you want to talk about today?
Oh, I
Records?
I thought about politics, but let's just do records.
Records as it is. My name's Jim, and I own a record store.
And I'm Steve, a record collector.
And you folks are tuned in to the number one podcast, according to our mothers, where you talk about records. I think,
Yeah,
maybe.
well, someone has to be your super fan.
There we go. So, hey, Steve, this week let's delve into the singer-songwriter genre. This is an interesting one because typically you're going to think of somebody who's just alone on a stage with a guitar, singing a song.
Yeah,
The guitar man
absolutely.
or the piano man.
Yeah,
Well, that's not a guitar, but
yes,
you get the idea. But that's
yeah.
not always the case, is
And
it?
it's No, no, it's not. Actually, as yes, folks, we do research. It was really interesting, kind of what you find out
Yeah.
and what is considered singer-songwriter.
Especially now, and I think toward the end of the discussion, I want to get into not only more contemporary stuff, but like a very, very new release, as in this past week release, that I don't know where I stand on this, Steve. It's definitely the singer-songwriter territory, but it's unlike anything that I've heard. And I've heard a few
Yeah.
things, but we'll get to that. That's later on in the discussion. Plus, we have a very cool announcement to make toward the end. Hang on there. I'm not sure what to do, but let's say that we start off like normal, Steve, with our recent pickups and additions to the collections. Your purge is now. How did that? Your purge is still ongoing, or you still have stuff boxed up?
I still keep pulling stuff out, as I'm going. Yeah, I have my records all out except for these classical box sets that someone sent me two cases of.
Oh,
But yeah, you know those box sets, Jim, right?
I do. The back room here at the store is full of them. The only question I
Yeah, yeah.
have
I
then
used
is your intake outpacing the
uh,
output, the purge put.
no, my intake is ahead of the outtake, but I do have more that I keep kind of pulling out and go, I'm not going to use that one, or oh, I have this one. This is a better one. Out it goes.
I've got one of
So,
those this week, but
but
yeah. So what are we looking at this week? What kind of goodies we got?
all right. This was a recent one that Jim brought up to me because Jim likes to do that. And
Bad
it
influence.
was the Fisherman Blues, Lost Fisherman
Oh
Blues
yeah.
recording. Now, I don't know how people keep losing stuff. If they were more organized, they wouldn't lose this. Let's categorize it. Let's put it in a shelf. Let's categorize it, maybe by year or something. You wouldn't lose it. But whatever the case, they lost this, found it in a shoebox or something, and now it has come to life. And this is a 3 album set from Fisherman Blues. None of the songs, there's a few of them that are kind of takes from it, but most of it is them jamming, sitting around playing things like uh, uh, Let the Light Shine on Me, This Land is Your Land,
Really?
Knocking on Heaven's Door, Honky Tonk. Oh, they played When Doves Cry. How about that one, huh?
Now,
Yeah.
I
Uh,
recall that Fisherman Blues by the Waterboys is one of your favorite albums of all time. And so this was
yes,
kind
it
of a,
is.
a thing. Well, I'm going to pick some stuff up from the session, so not quite what you expected.
No, I read that this is going to be different kind of things, and it's at that same time, so they have that band do with the instrumentations, with the fiddle, accordion, all that. So I like it. It's good. It's actually very well done. It has a nice booklet, with lyrics and words and things, and some pictures for those of you that don't have video. There's pictures and words. So imagine that, okay? Uh, so yeah, a 3 record set. I do like it. They even do there is one whole side, and we're talking 20 minutes of Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Just a jam.
Just a jam, man. Yep,
Wow.
we sing it and then we jam it and we keep going. Side 8. All
Well, now
Sergeant Pepper's.
one take just kind of a side note to that. You said that these were the lost tapes that were found in a shoebox. It's the Fisherman Blues Water Boys. Maybe it was found in a steamer trunk instead.
Very well could have been. Like, hey, oh, what's that? Hey, I found them. Hey, honey,
Here they
I
are.
found the tapes. Yeah, I've been looking all over for them. Oh well. So with that in mind, I have the Fisherman Blues box set
Oh
that
my.
I bought. It came up at a really good price. The guy on Discogs, and this is still sealed, by the way. The guy on Discogs says, "Make me an offer." Well, all righty then. I made an offer, and he accepted it. And he's from Denver, so we met in a parking lot and traded this off. So I have this before the flood. I do have all the CDs still. I have the albums still, but I just didn't have like the packaging and the book and everything. So I just thought, as Jim mentioned earlier, it is a top 10 album of all time for me. This is one that I've just means a lot. And so I, yeah, got that box set. That's still sealed, but I do have all the music. I can play it
So
whenever I
the
want. Oh, there's Deb. It's we have people in the back window waving. It's kind of like NBC Today show
there you go.
going on.
So between that box set, I would imagine that being a box set of Fisherman Blues, it does have some demos and such. Is that the
That's
lost
the
tapes meant?
demos.
Yeah, that lost tapes meant to be kind of a companion from the time.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. It's the same group of musicians playing. It's just as they're trying to come creative things, they just start jamming, playing different things like Prince's When Doves Cry.
And the
So you can
Beatles.
think the Fisherman Blues Band playing Prince. Sounds good. So, all
Okay
right.
then.
Yep. This was an interesting group. Ball Balthvs. Balhoffs. I don't know, Jim.
Okay.
I
That could be
I have no idea.
that could be a stylized U. I don't know.
Yes. Uh, it's the name of the album is The Harvest. It's a 3-piece band. And if you like Krungbin,
Okay.
it's Krungbin. It sounds like it's not Krungbin, but they sound like it. They've been around for around 10 years. There is mostly instrumental, a guy on drums, a guy on guitar, and a woman on bass. Huh. Well, that sounds like Krungbin too. The music, well, that sounds like Krungbin. Now, I will say they do more singing. Both of them, the male and female, do more singing, and that I like. I like this better than Krungbin. Uh, Here, I was on YouTube and one of their videos came up and I liked it. And this is a limited edition. This is limited standard black. Only 500 copies of standard black vinyl were made. So we got limited edition black vinyl, Jim. Wow.
Limited. Very good.
Yeah. I've never heard of that one, but okay. Very enjoyable listen. They have a new album coming out that I actually bought. And I like Krungbin, but I haven't played them in a long time, and then I wind up buying this, so I'm hoping this one will stick with me better. But yeah, it sounds that groovy kind of
Yeah.
spacey type guitar.
Yep. We'll hopefully find a sound
Uh,
sample.
yeah. Finally, I probably won't find a sound sample of this. A friend of mine on the VC, Michael P. Dawson, and put out a new album, and I have his other albums, kind of jazz, classical. He does a lot of different things, but this is up above the world so high, and This is a little more of a classical type album. Now he uses synthesizer to come up with these instrumentations. It sounds like there's violins, it sounds like there's brass, different things going on. He plays a lot of woodwinds, flute, sax, and stuff. So he plays that, and then he uses stuff to get the other things. Very has a classical feel, especially the first side. I like this a lot. I have all his albums. This one was very entertaining. Yeah, again, as a fan of classical music, it was good. There's a cool vinyl. He kind of it's a story about these three mice, and up into a balloon they go, and what they're seeing, and they're crossing a desert, and they're meeting different people, and just kind of whimsical. Uh,
So a
Very
neoclassical
enjoyable.
concept album of sorts.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
That sounds good. And just him playing everything, but it sounds like a full orchestra going on. So really good stuff from Michael P. Dawson, Up Above the World So High. And he was nice enough then to send me a couple extra albums. One was from George Philip Telemann. It's a classical album. Never heard of George Philip Telemann. He is Baroque. He's a
Yep.
Baroque composer. I love Baroque. So this was great.
The none
Enjoyed that.
the None Such
And
label is really good for that type of stuff too. They really do a good
yes, it
job
is.
archiving those.
And then JJ and Kai, two trombonists, jazz, 50s and 60s. They put out quite a bit of music. JJ Johnson and Kai Winding. And sent that. I haven't had a chance to listen to this one yet, but I have had music from these guys. So, um, yeah, that's what I got. And yeah, there's some other stuff that came in, but that'll be for next week.
That's right. Okay. Well, I've got three things this week. One is a brand new album from a Midland native. And he's got a couple of, this is actually just his second album, but there's a lot of EPs out there. And this is from an artist named Michigander. And his real name is Jason Singer. He is from the Midland area, although any information that you look up says he's from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Now, he's trying to disown
Oh,
Midland, but I do know for a fact he's from Midland because he went to high school with my daughter, Katie. So he was there at the same time.
mm-hmm.
Cool thing is, I mean, he's made it on like, oh, geez, some of the Bonnaroo circuit, and he's been on that with a lot of the other indie bands. His previous work has been very light indie pop, kind of that very soft spoken, lots of keyboard, generic indie pop is kind of what I want to say, but I don't want to come down on him too much. This one, the brand new album is called Over Before You Know It. I really dig this one. It's got a lot more power to it, a little power pop, indie pop sound to it, a lot more guitar. It's a lot more upbeat in spots. There's a couple of softer songs, but
Mm-hmm.
it does have a lot more life and energy to it than I think his previous work does. And it
Okay.
is, there's Jason there on there, Michigander. Again, if you're looking for him as an artist, it's called Michigander, but Jason is his name. You know what the funny thing is, Steve? Somewhere, somewhere I've got a videotape of a high school talent show that Katie was in. He's up on stage singing, and now he's a international recording artist.
How about
So
that?
very cool. But this is on there's a couple of different versions of this out there. This one is on something called the Sunny Splatter Lawn Vinyl, or Sunny, what do they say? Sunny Splatter Lawn Vinyl is what that one is called. But again, compared to his previous work, which tended, for me at least, to be a little, I don't want to say generic sounding, but very just light and
Mm-hmm.
not much substance. This one's got a lot more heft to it, I guess is the way to put it. So
Yeah.
hopefully there will be a sound sample on there because I really do enjoy this one. And we got a few copies in the store, so I hopefully folks will begin to find it. But yeah, it's just his second. He's got other pressings out, but they're all EPs, and this is the second full album. All right. Secondly, I picked this up. This is one of those upgrades that you don't really need, but you get anyway, right? They Might Be Giants and their album Book, originally released in 2021, and I've had a copy of this. I just happened to see that last week they repressed this on colored vinyl. So again, this is the Coke bottle clear vinyl version. And I've got a few others. It's green if you ask me, but I guess Coke bottles really don't matter anymore. So
Yeah.
whether they're green or not, they can just say green. I've got a few other of the later They Might Be Giant stuff from the 2000s that's on colored vinyl. So I figured, okay, I'll just step into the colored vinyl version and put my older, the original pressing black vinyl one out on the shelf and call it good. But a fun They Might Be Giants album, not one of my go-tos, but when you're a completist, I guess that's what you got to do, right?
That's right. I was just trying to think. It came out in 2021 and you upgraded. How could you upgrade a 2021 album?
By
But
getting the
okay.
colored vinyl version. There you
Yeah.
go. And
Got it.
lastly, I added another compilation to the collection, and the Birds. They, I like the Birds. When you were getting into the singer songwriter, maybe these guys comparing to this, but the early jangle pop, as you would like to say, also right, jingle jangle.
Yeah.
The more famous of those is the Birds' Greatest Hits, I think, which is everybody sees it's a single LP. This is the history of the Birds that came out in 1973. And I do have the other Birds compilation. For me, that's always been kind of a good enough one to have. But then this one comes along as a double LP, and it's got some stuff, well, a lot of stuff that I consider to be really good Birds tunes that's not on that more famous compilation, the more readily available one that you see. So what it was on here, Chestnut Mare, I can't remember if that's on there, for example, but Jesus Is Just All Right on there. You ain't going nowhere. Hickory Wind, Turn's on there. My Back Pages. This is just a more fleshed out greatest hits from the Birds. And the version I've got is a UK version from 1973. What's really cool is when you open the gatefold on this, it has got, and let me kick this in for those of you who are watching, it has got the Birds family tree illustrated on both sides of the gatefold all the way down. So every incarnation of the Birds, how they started off, and the different members that have come through time on there as well. So the pre-Birds trio, they've got on there the Hillman. Then you get Crosby, McGuinn, Hillman, Clark, all the way through the classic Birds era with Graham Parsons on there as well. So I think
it looks like there's a lot of chaos in that group. That was a lot. That's a lot of different.
It's enough to fill a double-sided gatefold, Steve. How's that? So
obviously it wasn't a kumbaya type.
Despite the music,
yes.
To everything, there's a turnover. How's that?
Yeah.
So that is what we've got this week for the pickups. And if you are curious to listen in on some of these, especially the Michigander, Steve, I think maybe you should check that. I don't want to, no pressure. I don't want to peer pressure you, but check that out. But we'll put a Spotify playlist together with all of the songs that we're talking about today in both the pickups and where we're headed with our singer-songwriter stuff. And you'll find the link to that Spotify playlist in the description of wherever you are watching and or listening to today's podcast. So if you're on the BLEAVE Network and all of the subsequent audio ones that follow, like Spotify, iHeart, Apple, Amazon, blah, 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 down the line, it's in the description there. And if you're on the YouTube side of things, you can just scroll down and click. But all we ask is that you hold off. Don't click that Spotify playlist until you're done listening to today's episode, right? All the way through.
Exactly.
We really do appreciate that. Speaking of the audio side, if you are listening to us through the BLEAVE Podcast Network, things run a little differently than they are on YouTube as far as that goes. You can still share and you can still comment on these, but if you leave a review on the audio side, that really does help boost us up with the network that we're with and helps kind of spread the word, so to speak, of what we're doing here. And the YouTube side, we're still seeing the comments. I'm still trying to get to them. And we did have a lot of comments come through after last week's talking with the folks from Married with Vinyl. A lot of folks like that episode. So,
yeah, that was a good one. Fun.
So, Steve, where do we go here? It feels like it was probably several episodes back, but we did an Americana episode, I think back in July. This is similar, but a lot in ways a lot different to me. When we start talking about singer-songwriters, earlier I kind of mentioned too that you think of somebody like a Bob Dylan coming out there, just a guy and a guitar. He, despite Dylan's early where that the whole the story about his first album and how he fought to have some of his stuff on there, but it was mostly covers and blues, or not blues, but folk standards. Uh, he morphed into his own, and not the first, by the way, of being just a guy with a guitar telling a story. So I think that there's a lot that goes into classifying an artist as a singer songwriter, and it is, like I said, it's more than you'd think it would be.
Hmm. Yeah, so much of it deals with, first off, songs that you create that are personal.
Yeah,
Might be about you, or it might be about just someone else that you know. This is storytelling going on, which is kind of my personal favorite that I like. And it is definitely more than just a guy with a guitar or a person just sitting on a piano.
yeah.
When we're looking at this, it just encompasses basically, I wrote the song and I'm performing it. I might have a band behind me, but I'm the singer and I'm the songwriter. So damn it, I'm a
Hence,
singer songwriter.
hence the
I mean,
name
it's
singer songwriter. And a lot of
yeah,
these, they're going to trace its roots way back into the early blues era and the early folk era. I'm talking early folk. You think of somebody like Woody Guthrie and Robert Johnson on the blues side.
Robert Johnson, exactly. Robert Johnson, he just one guy and a guitar out there. He made his own songs and played, and everybody else was taking his songs and playing that stuff. Definitely fits into this category.
Yep. And the Woody Guthrie, and
Yeah.
I don't have a Woody Guthrie album in front of me now, but obviously he is a good example on the folk side of things. He wrote a song about Upper Michigan, the 1913 massacre, which is a song. It's definitely not a light and and pleasant song, but it's a song about the deaths of several hundred people, most of them children, in 1913 in Calumet, Michigan, where there was a big union and anti-union dispute going on. And that, if you research the story on this, and again, I spent a lot of time in the UP, and I think I did some news stories on anniversaries of that disaster, so to speak, down the line. But the long and the short of it is that Woody Guthrie, being a very pro-union songwriter and singer, wrote about this because it was such a tragic event in the early parts of the 1900s, where essentially there was a Christmas celebration in the Italian Hall in Calumet, and a couple of the Union Buster guys opened the door and yelled, "There's a fire." This is also partially where the "you can't yell fire in a crowded theater" comes from, because this was one of those. They yelled fire, people started ignoring them, then they panicked, and when they tried to leave, the doors were A, they opened the wrong way, but also B, the Union Busters were holding them shut, and there was a giant, massive crowd of people that crushed a lot of other kids and stuff to death. So well over 100 people died. Woody Guthrie thought that that would make a fantastic story to tell via his songwriting, and he did. And that's, I think, one of his classics. And as I'm sorry for
Yeah.
bringing everybody down. But you get, I think, in some cases you mentioned personal, but also out of tragedy, especially national
Yeah.
tragedies. There's a lot of this good storytelling can come out of.
Hmm. Politics is a big part of it,
Hmm.
especially when you think in the 60s, Vietnam War, singer-songwriters really getting into that, their own personal thoughts about what's going on. Uh, and that still goes on to this day, obviously.
Yep. Now, what about
Yeah.
the progression from blues and folk into country? Maybe that's a good place to start, because we're moving into the 50s with singer songwriters. And one of the ones I think that's going to be a fantastic example of this. The other aspect, I think, is the ability of the singer songwriter to tell a story through both lyrics
Hmm.
and music. Now, I'm speaking, of course, first off of Marty Robbins and Gunfighter Ballads. And you get a song like El Paso, that's just another tragic story, but it's a great story nonetheless, and made very memorable through Marty Robbins singing.
Hmm. Yeah. It's it's bringing on past history and bringing it back to life again through
Oh
storytelling,
yeah.
which when you look back, especially with folk music throughout the centuries, what was it about? It
Hmm.
was about that stories, something that happened historic that even to this day, oftentimes we take as historical fact or whatever, but they put it to music, and then they passed it on and on and on. And
So
that's what find something like that.
should we take this back to medieval minstrels then? Also, I don't have any medieval minstrel albums.
No, I thought I had one,
The
but I
greatest of the
didn't.
court jesters, maybe, or something.
Yeah, but it's kind of where it all goes.
But yeah, the other one I'm just going to kind of hold up at the same time with Marty Robbins is, of course, Johnny Cash. And we've talked before, especially in the Americana, about Johnny Cash and his revival in the with the American series as well, kind of picking up where he left off in the 60s and 70s with
Hmm.
albums like Folsom Prison, which this, I don't know. Do you really want to consider Folsom Prison, for example, a singer-songwriter album? Because it is him on stage in a
Yeah.
prison, pretty much. He's got a band with him as well, but telling
If
stories.
if he wrote them and he's a singing them, I guess it does. But you think of his earlier stuff, which was more acoustic.
Yeah.
From the late 50s, moving up, I used to have quite a few of those albums. They were, kind of acoustic.
Hmm.
And so again, if he was writing performing them, that's where I just even want to step back when you think about the blues. Like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf are not singer songwriters because they didn't write their music.
Hmm.
They got it from Willie Dixon. Willie Dixon, though, he made his own albums with his own music, considered more singer songwriter. So yeah, it's just some artists, they just don't write. That's not what they do.
Their more talent lies with the singing and presentation of. But the cool thing I think about singer songwriters is that you really do get that full package. The more successful ones, I think, have not only the writing talent to come through, the ability to tell the story, but they've got decent playing skills and a voice that carries through. Well, we could argue, when we have before, about Bob Dylan's voice being the voice of a generation, but it's
Yeah.
for a lot of folks, Dylan's voice, especially nowadays, is really kind of an acquired taste. But you don't want
Mhm.
to argue against his songwriting capabilities in any way, shape, or form. And I'm holding up a copy of Desire right now from Dylan, from 1975, notable because of the story song on here, Hurricane, which is just, it's a great song. And it does, again, touches on kind of that tragic element of songwriting and storytelling.
Yeah. And you think when he started, Joan Baez obviously fits right into
Yep.
there. Pete Seeger, yeah, it was that
Yep.
revivalist thing. But Dylan, then the whole electrification, and things change. I'm going to
Yep.
say, I'll just pull it. This is a later album, but John Lennon. John Lennon wrote and sang so many of his own songs, both the Beatles. I mean, you could put the same for Paul McCartney.
Yep.
Ringo Starr went on to write and play his own stuff. George Harrison, all four were singer songwriters. Now, Ringo, well, he had to get out of the band to become a singer
Yep.
songwriter to do his own stuff, but he did do his own stuff. He
Yep.
did begin writing and putting it in, but these guys weren't doing a lot of covers. At the beginning, yeah, but then it was creating this
Yeah.
music
Well, it's kind of the
as a
same thing
band.
with Dylan at the very beginning, and even the Stones covering a lot of
Yeah.
their early blues standards.
Absolutely. But so this, I would say, Simon and Garfunkel, Paul Simon is a great
Yeah.
example of that. Not so much art, he wasn't, but Paul was in charge of the lyrics and coming up with this stuff, and it was acoustic, generally speaking, telling stories, whatever, and obviously they put out some great stuff. Well, he's still putting out music on there, but the Sounds of Silence. That's a heck of a story.
Oh, heck
I
yeah. Yeah.
remember as a kid, it's like, God, it's creepy, man. And so good stuff.
I've got one other from that era that I want to show off, and if only because if you want to think about a song that tells a story and the singer songwriter out on stage by himself singing that story all the way through. We mentioned
Mhm.
Woody. I cannot not mention Arlo Guthrie next with Alice's
Yeah.
Restaurant. And definitely political, but not as much tragic, more comedic down the line of things with the 18 minutes and 20 seconds worth of Alice's Restaurant massacre and three-part harmony. How to go
Yeah.
through there. I mean, this is a Thanksgiving tradition, but technically now it's not a Thanksgiving song. It's a Black Friday song because it takes place the day after Thanksgiving. Stop and think. So we'll play this on Black Friday instead of Thanksgiving.
Oh, well, I'm going to bring up from that time period, just Lou Reed, Velvet Underground. You
Okay.
talk about taking stories, heroin.
Yep.
It's about a trip. I'm taking heroin. I'm waiting for the man. It was all about he wrote these songs, performed them, but Lou Reed has always been that. You think of his, late, 1989, he did New York. That's just
Yep.
pure stories about New York City. Then he went to Magic and Loss. It's a whole album about his friend dying of cancer, a full album of that. Just taking this stuff. Now, it's just not him on a guitar. Yeah, there's a whole lot more going on, but he makes stories. And, that first Velvet Underground album is packed with stories. And, his other ones are too. So, he would fall into that vein.
I think one of the cool things about this genre is that it's going to differ a little bit from concept albums in the fact that you kind of compartmentalize rather that storytelling into multiple different songs. You're not telling some overarching story, and then that's cool. By mind you, speaking as a Rush fan and somebody who likes Pink Floyd as well, it's neat when they can be sprawling over a single or double LP in some cases, telling a story like that. But it's also very cool to strip that back a bit and get multiple short stories, if you will, in the form of songs. And I think I've got one more of that era that needs to go through here, and this is Gordon Lightfoot and the album
Yeah.
"Summertime Dream" and his huge staple. So many different ones on there, not on this, but through Gordon Lightfoot's catalog. But of course, "The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald," which just celebrated its was it 60th anniversary this past last year, rather 75. Again, coming out of tragedy. And there was a lot of controversy. And I think that this happened with Woody Guthrie as well, but more so when you get into the 70s with Gordon Lightfoot. It was after the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald in Lake Superior in Upper Michigan that Lightfoot, a Canadian, was inspired to write about that tragic event. When
Hmm.
he first did that, the families of the survivors, we're talking very contemporary, and Woody Guthrie close to that time with the Massacre song from 1913. But Lightfoot faced some backlash from the families for what they felt was an attempt to capitalize upon the tragedy for him to write a song and earn money. And side note on this, I met him very, very briefly at, I think it was probably the 20th anniversary of the sinking. He went up to the Upper Peninsula. I was working television news and got to interview him very briefly at the Whitefish Point Shipwreck Museum. He was there to celebrate the anniversary of the sinking with the families. They had made amends by that time, but it was not the case. He was simply, through his art, wanting to tell the story, this very
Yeah.
tragic story of the sinking. So there was a little bit of animosity at the first through the 70s and into the 80s, especially when this really began to take off, but not so much at the end. And again, I mentioned Lightfoot, no stranger to that kind of singer or songwriter storytelling aspect. The song "Black Day in July," and I forget which album that one is on, but that is about the riots in Detroit in the late 60s as well.
Hmm.
And very, very poignant, very political, but told through his songwriting and playing and singing, which is just powerful. He's a very
Yeah.
emotional, was a very emotional singer songwriter.
Well, the early 70s to mid 70s was like the zenith when you think of
Yeah.
singer songwriters. Everything James Taylor, Carly Simon,
Joni,
Janice
yeah,
Ian,
Joni Mitchell's in there, and
Joni Mitchell.
yep,
Yes, you have to say her. I have a few from that time. Neil Young's Harvest,
yep,
just another him and acoustic guitar playing. Of course, the nice thing about singer-songwriters is it brought us punk too, because they kind of got tired to listen to that stuff. So let's just go the opposite of whatever they're doing, man. But Neil Young's Harvest is a nice example. Leonard Cohen.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You talk about a guy that makes song, the stories and what he tells. And of course, this is Leonard Cohen's Songs of Leonard Cohen, which is an absolute classic when you think of that. There was, Graham Parsons. He made, he did take covers, but there was a lot of songs that he wrote, generally him and a guitar, just out there playing and singing. But he also, with him, he had Emmylou Harris. And she wrote a lot of her stuff. And oftentimes she's just there singing and doing her own, music. And she's made still beautiful music, still coming out with stuff. But the 70s was really a big time for her. Well, after Graham died, she found, okay, I can do this. Folk country, I guess you could say, that she would fall into. Jimmy Buffett. Talk about another story writer. When you listen to his stuff, some of it's tongue in cheek, but some of it's very serious, and what he puts out. So he did just a lot of great stuff. And this is Changes in Latitude, Changes in Attitudes. It's not only Jimmy Buffett. He's a guy I really just need a greatest hits of. Greatest hits, Jimmy Buffett.
That's what I've got.
Yeah, well, you're a smart man. Yep. And I just one more because we talked about it. Billy Joel's Piano Man.
Yep.
You talk about just the song Piano Man. You talk about a great story. That's a fan. It's a personal story. It's his personal story, what he sees. And Billy Joel was really good on doing personal stories, looking at things from his life and doing it, but other things also. And him and the piano.
Yep.
Just him playing his piano and coming up with it. But that was just a great era for that kind of music. Instead of you thinking the full band kind of coming out, these guys were just doing their own thing.
I like that you mentioned the 70s was really kind of the pinnacle of that. I've got one more actually from the 70s. There might be others. I'm trying to think here. Yeah, that is 70s on there too. Let me toss these in because they are 70s also, and that comes through with Jackson Browne. And which, of course, then leads to a lot of Eagles songs as well. But, I've got the self-titled Jackson Browne, often referred to as Saturate before using because of the cover on there, but also songs for every man. I think both of those are just very, again, that the compartmentalized storytelling held within a song. And yes, they're full bands in each of these, but at its heart, it's still Jackson Browne kind of going through a lot of this and singing. One more, and this is more of a regional one, and this is one of the, I think, 2 or 3 originals that remain on my my bucket list and or Holy Grail list from Upper Michigan, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. This is an artist by the name of Jeff Cowell, and this is called Lucky Strikes in Liquid Gold. Several years ago, I found this reissue, and it's no slouch either. This one came from, what's the name of the record label on this? It's the N. I'm trying to remember. They didn't put that on here, but the originally it was a self-published one. But these, along the lines of Dylan, he's got a voice that takes a little getting used to, but it's pretty much just acoustic with some backup. And there's other instrumentation on here with a band, but it's all songs about living in the western Upper Peninsula of Michigan in the 70s. You get Lucky Strikes and Liquid Gold, meaning that he's smoking and drinking and have a good time out in the woods in there. Let's see, we all know Bring Me Back, Can't Make Nothing. So personal songwriting and storytelling from Jeff Cowell. Originals of this do exist, but man, are they up there. It's really another one of those Michigan ones that not a lot of folks know about, but it's out of reach. So if you ever see this in a garage sale in Michigan, I'm snagging it right up. But I do have the reissue. I wish I could get the name of the label that reissued this. It's the I forget. So the hype sticker I kept on the inside says 10 road weary tales from the wrong side of outlaw country. He may have huffed the
The
same
boss.
narcotic air as Townes Van Zandt and David Allen Coe, but he hunkered far from the Nashville city limits in the western Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So Iron Mountain and the like. So very fun stuff.
There's no songs about mosquitoes on there. I
No,
mean, if you're up the Upper Peninsula,
not yet. Maybe
okay,
somebody needs to write one of those. We'll get a new breed.
yeah.
But that I think it really does encapsulate the fact that the 70s and into the 80s was really the time. And do you have anything that comes through in the 80s where stuff started to get a little more poppy, so to speak, but still
Well,
existed?
I have more of a classic one that I think encompasses kind of through the 70s. Bruce
Oh, there you go.
Springsteen's Nebraska.
Yep.
Uh, Talk about a guy and a guitar just making songs, making stories. But any Bruce Springsteen from the 70s into the 80s into the dark, born in the USA, you think about, he wrote these, performing them. It just political, very much so, or personal experiences, especially when you think of his 70s stuff. But this one here to me is just a classic of a guy and his guitar kind of playing, doing his own thing, and making some really great music. An album when it first came out, kind of people were going, "Oh, really?" And now it's considered just one of his all-time classics on there.
Hmm.
And I mean, State Trooper and Highway Patrolman are two ones that I really like. He must have gotten in trouble a lot when in Nebraska because he has two about that. So, but good stuff. So, kind of fast forwarding, I guess I'm gonna skip the '90s. I don't know what happened. But I'm sure there's guys singing their own songs and stuff, but there's a lot of techno and everything else going on. Rap. Would rap be considered? You write your own songs? We never even thought about that one,
No,
Jim.
we didn't, but we'll touch upon that in a bit.
Okay, all right. But all right, I'm going to throw this one up. Green Day. Billy Joe Armstrong wrote the songs for Green Day. This one here is American Idiot. Now it is a concept. So to your point, there is more of a concept about very political though, and it's kind of a classic Green Day album for me. It's not Dookie, I know, but some people may go, well, that's not singer songwriter. Well, he does write all his own songs for that group. Kind of like U2 and Bono, they do it, or Jagger and Richards.
Yep.
This one though is a really nice example. It's Jenny Lewis. She was a Kyle O'Reilly, but there she is with the Watson twins. But she does all her own writing and she makes great stories. This gal is a great storyteller. And so when you listen to her music, you just get this feeling of, it just takes you to another place with these stories. Some of them are very personal. Some are, again, just fictional. But this is her album Rabbit Fur Coat with the Watson Twins, which is a real favorite because it has this almost gospel type feel to the music that she's doing. I think this was her first solo album. A classic, probably more what we would think of traditionally a singer-songwriter is Jason Isbell.
Mm-hmm.
He does have a band, a really good band, but I've heard him just there by himself on acoustic guitar in a concert. So he does that. Very personal again. He's been through a lot in life with drugs, alcohol, everything like that. He writes about it, talks about that, but then also other great stories, especially about the South and what's happening. And the final one I'm going to mention is Casey Musgraves. This is her new album. Very much she's a great storyteller. Also, always has something. This album is a middle of nowhere, and which I really like. This is one of my favorite albums of this year. She just has a great voice, but she tells good stories. This one, there's a lot of tongue in cheek in her storytelling. It's pretty hilarious on some of these songs, but yeah. And a lot of country people they make great stories.
And that's what
Except
I find
some are,
interesting as well, is we're kind of coming full circle on this. I guess I would consider the 2020s now almost in an era of resurgence, maybe the teens as well. into that singer-songwriter, but a lot of them are not necessarily straight up country. The Musgraves is, but like the Jason Isbell, for example, can be a
Hmm.
crossover in through there. Then you got things like the Tedeschi Trucks Band, for example, out there, and numerous other ones, including Sturgill Simpson.
Americana,
Yeah,
right?
Americana. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sturgill Simpson's. One of the more contemporary ones that I want to talk about next is Billy Strings. We've talked about him a lot. We've each seen him live, and it's an interesting experience, regardless. Live, it's more of a jam band, but the albums. This one here is Highway Prayers from Billy Strings from last year. I'm trying to remember when that
Yeah,
was.
I think so.
2024, 2 years ago. Holy cow.
Oh, no
Time,
kidding.
time
Wow.
is flying.
Oof.
Technically, it's a concept album, but not in the realm of it. The entire album tells one story, but rather they're loosely connected songs about cars and or traveling. And this is actually kind of cool because it does cover a lot of Michigan stuff, so that's always going to be a fun aspect for me to get through. And I just the packaging of this album has always been, I think, great with Highway Prayers. But there's some very cool story songs on this as well. 7 Weeks in County, about going spending some time in jail. Um, what is the other one here? Leaning on a Traveling Song. Gild the Lily, Catch and Release is through here as well. Seany Stretch, which is an instrumental about a stretch of land, roadway rather, in the Upper Peninsula that is straight and flat. But a lot of other Billy Strings albums follow this kind of thematic where there's a lot of. Now, he does have a full band backing him as well, but he does
Hmm.
write the majority of the stuff that he does. And I mention this because he's got a new album coming out. I don't know if you'd heard about this or seen it yet, but there's
Yeah.
coming out here either September or October. I forget the release date on this. And he started releasing some music on that. And one of the first one that came out was just like, it is quite literally a mushroom trip song. So I don't know if we're going to count that. Even the music video shows a guy tripping
Oh,
out on mushrooms. So your psychedelics. But the second song they just put out was called Milltown Flood. And the video that Billy Strings released has images from 1800s and early 1900s postcards from his personal collection of a town called Muir, Michigan. It's down in southwest Michigan area, Ionia County, I believe, that encountered a flood from the river there in the late, I think it was late 1800s. And so the song, technically, the only part of the song that's really about the flood is the chorus, but then the rest of the song tells a story about him meeting a woman in this town and falling in love and getting married and then ultimately losing her because of his propensity for drink, the character's propensity for drink. So, and a lot of
okay.
other Billy Strings music does, and you mentioned that with Jason Isbell as well, sings about his journey. We didn't even mention Willie Nelson, for example, but
Oh,
he
yeah.
did stuff with Willie Nelson, California Sober, on this as well, talking about Billy Strings' upbringing, his battle against hard narcotic drugs, and his redemption of himself through that, and the battles he went through family wise, and his redemption on the family with his mother and his late mother and his father as well. So personal tragedy, and then singing about other either fictional or, in the case of the Muir flood, realistic tragedies, carries forward into more of this more modern bluegrass today. And that's why I'm saying it's kind of coming full circle, so to speak, from that country blues folk stuff from the 40s and 50s.
Do you think Billy Strings would do one on the Midland flood? And,
Write a song about Steve losing his record
yeah,
collection.
the tragedy of losing a record collection.
Hey, I was there. I saw them floating in your basement, sir, and the tragedy it was. I'll send a note. We'll
Yeah,
see if we can get through
I'm
to his
just waiting.
management.
Okay.
Uh, One final thing I want to tag on here, and this is kind of fun. If I go back and hold up the Marty Robbins Gunfighter Ballads, you think about the old West serials for television and or movies. There was a lot of great storytelling that came out of the old West in the 1800s, retold in the mid 1900s through artists like Marty Robbins. And a lot of them are the outlaw, the lawman hunting him down, the revenge story coming back through.
Mhm.
That is, I think, from well, holy cow, this was 2021 already. I thought this was just a couple of years ago as well. Sturgill Simpson and his Ballad of Dude and Juanita, a concept
Yeah.
album through and through, but it's got that old West storytelling of Marty Robbins, telling the story about the outlaw and the redemption and the manhunt that goes through there. And Willie Nelson's on this one too, by the way. But Definitely a different album. There's a prologue spoken word on here, I believe, and then the rest is all just music and goes through. But this brings us to this one, Steve. I sent you a link the other day. This was just released
Yeah.
as of the recording of today's episode last Friday. And I'm still kind of coming to grips on what to think about this. This is an album called The Outlaw Cherie Lee and Other Western Tales by the artist Shabuzi. How best to describe this, Steve? It's hip hop, but it's old school country at the same time.
Yeah.
Storytelling about it's the revenge of the old West outlaw storytelling on this, but it's done
There's
through it's such an even mix of modern hip hop music and old honky tonk country that I'm left kind of scratching my head on this.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's some good fiddle going on, and you just don't get enough fiddle in hip hop, I think, at times. But it has that old world type feel. There's a billion tracks on that too. Holy
Yeah, oh yeah,
crap!
20 tracks.
Because yeah, part of it is people talking because it's a story. I mean, it is. This is a story. So you have like Jamie Foxx is talking.
Yeah. Jamie
And
Foxx is the narrator, which I find
yeah,
an interesting turn on a modern album is that you're going to put a spoken
yeah.
word narrator on here.
Well, he did do Django, so
Yeah, it's
that was a
true.
Western.
It
Yeah.
was.
Uh,
But the real surprise comes through with actor Sam Elliott, who's no stranger to playing Old West actors, comes through here
mhm,
with a very short spoken word talking about where you got till the count of five to come out.
yeah,
Out of nowhere you get this hip hop beat, and then it goes to Sam Elliott threatening violence.
yeah. I it's yeah, the spoken word part kind of was throwing me off. It was interrupting the music. Is I'm more one that just likes to have a music, but it is trying to create a story. I found it interesting. I gotta listen to it some more. I don't mind these mashups, but with the hip hop and this real Western country stuff,
Yep.
it was very interesting.
I this is the store copy. I've got a couple here in the store. I've not opened it yet, and I've only listened digitally on this. I want to, but I'm not certain how much down the line, how much play it's going to get on my
Yeah,
turntable. That's the one thing.
yeah,
But that to your point earlier, you mentioned that we didn't talk about hip hop through the '90s, and we kind of glazed over that. But that is, I think, a good argument to make, even though we're making the argument on this very odd pairing of hip hop and country that is Shabuzi. And I've
hmm
listened to some of his older stuff. He's very popular on the country side of things now. So
isn't that something?
you're getting
Huh.
this. What was there? Was a song about a bar and being tipsy. That's a huge country bar hit. So
Well, when Public Enemy goes country, then we're going to know really something really big happened there.
long story short, I think that we could conceivably say that yes, they're singer songwriters that you're going to get, especially in the '90s hip hop era, and the stories that they're telling. It's just that none, so to speak, in my collection. I think you've got minimal stuff in yours.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. There is, and you kind of when you think singer, well, okay, they write their lyrics, but the actual rest of the song is generally sampled from
Yes.
everybody else. So I don't know, kind of a gray
So
area.
it's songwriter, but not music. Well, you get the idea where we're going with that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of gestate on the Shabuzi album for a while, listen to it a few more times online, and I don't know. It's not my wheelhouse, but my wheelhouse has been changing here and there over the years. So we'll see what
Yep.
happens.
Yep. It definitely does.
So, what do you folks think? Do you have a favorite singer songwriter that we mentioned, or possibly some that we did not mention that you want to throw into the mix? Please let us know in the comments section and take us to task. But I think it's what's cool about this genre, Steve, is that because it's so personal for the artist, a lot of these songs are from their
Mm.
personal stories, or they're telling a story of tragedy like Lightfoot or Guthrie, as we mentioned. That kind of storytelling, I think, resonates with people at a different level. It's not just I'm jamming and bopping my head to music, but I'm listening to these lyrics and I'm involved with the story. Therefore, this song becomes a lot more personal. And there's a lot of people you take, for example, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, when that's played in November, a lot of people will get goosebumps simply listening to that song because it's such an emotional story.
Yeah, totally agree. And it when you can bring that in, think Neil Young's Ohio about the Kent
Oh yeah.
State shootings. There's power. There's just that because it's real life, but we're putting it there to music and get a good hook. There you go.
There we go. Well, folks, let us know in the comments section if you would. But before we go, Steve, we're going to take just a quick self-promotional turn on this. How does that sound?
Oh, well,
The
I think that's wonderful,
I
Jim.
think it is.
Great
There
idea.
has been there have been those of you that have popped up in the comments from time to time saying, "Hey, we would love to get some two guys talking about records merch." And it's taken me a while to kind of get this because we've here at the store we've had obviously t-shirts and cups and some other merch in the past, but it's been a year or so. I'm looking at coming up on the Christmas season here, not too far off, holy cow, where we're going to need to restock on those. And so Kim and I have been working on a way to integrate a wider, larger store for merchandise that's not just in store here in Midland, Michigan, where we can ship stuff out, but stuff that folks could order. So we're working our way toward having one of those YouTube stores. So our YouTube channel at Radio Wasteland Records soon, it's not there now, but soon will be incorporated. But in the meantime, we have set up a merch channel through Shopify that we're running through the store's website. And you were sent a prototype a little while ago, and you showed that off on your Sunday morning show,
Yeah.
which then immediately resulted in people asking me, where can I get those? Can we
There
get
I
some
am,
of
Jim,
those?
promoting.
So, folks, yes, we do have some merch that is ready to go. I'm still holding up one of the prototypes of the two guys talking about records coffee mug, but I'm going to throw the fact that we do have some Radio Wasteland coffee mugs out there as well. But if you're interested, until we get the YouTube side up and running, absolutely, you can head over to our website at radiowasteland.com or radiowastelandrecords.com. And I've got this called up on the side here, Steve. So, but if you're looking through our website, a lot of cool stuff. I don't do a heck of a lot with it, but the online store section of our website does have the merch store. And when you click on that, you can go down to the collections and find the Two Guys Talking About Records collection, which is three things right now. we'll add more, but it's got the Two Guys Talking About Records coffee mug. It's got a t-shirt with our logo on there and a hoodie, because you're going to need a hoodie in that. Oh, wait, yeah, Steve's holding up. Go ahead. Steve's holding up the
It's a
koozie.
koozie.
That was a
Yes.
that was another experimental one. There will be koozies on there eventually, but that's just a prototype still. That's okay.
I'm just trying to excite the audience,
There we
Jim,
go. Look what's coming.
and creating anticipation.
Patient. Thank you. So yeah, the hoodie's there for that Colorado winter for you, Steve, which is usually in the 60 to 70 degree mark. We had tougher winters here, for crying out loud. I'll wear the hoodie, but so there's some t-shirts and hoodies on there and the coffee mug, and this is through Shopify. So when you order, they're going to kind of make manufacture on demand and get that sent to you. So that is there. We'll eventually have more stuff on there. Kim's working feverishly to add the can koozies on there, Steve. We're just trying to see what that stuff's going to look like. But yeah, and if anyone's curious, we do have some Radio Wasteland gear on there as well. A hat. There's a few more Radio Wasteland things, but we'll add to the Two Guys stuff here eventually. I'll have some shopping bags on there. And one other thing just to mention, Steve, if folks are looking at the store on our website, there is a link there that says vinyl new and pre-owned classics. No products found. That's because I don't have anything up on there yet. That's just kind of a placeholder, but I'm going to start expanding our online store a little bit through that same Shopify. So for folks that watch our channel and see stuff on our drop videos like you do, they don't always have that inside lane to text me and say, hey,
Yep.
we can get that.
Exactly.
But in the interim, again, folks, if you just head over to our website at radiowasteland.com, you can find your way to our merch store and start picking up some Two Guys Talking About Records merch. I guess in the comments too, let us know if there's something else you want us to try. The can koozies are on the way. We'll add more stuff in on that, and we'll see what we can do. It's a fun little site, and we'll see if we can add on to that. But we just had to do something to get started because the folks were asking us for some stuff right off the bat, so we had to get it rolling. Thanks to you, Steve.
No problem, Jim. That's what I'm here for.
Well, you folks have been watching and or listening to Two Guys Talking About Records. There we go. Your weekly vinyl community podcast where we talk about records. As always, it's been a pleasure having you with us today. And Steve, thank you very much. So until next week, my name's Jim, and I own a record store.
I'm Steve, a record collector, and watching Jim drink out of his mugs.
Have a great week, everyone. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Jim. Bye, everybody.